Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to our Hanafi fiqh class. We are doing the kitab known as I'ala Sunan of Maulana Zafar Ahmad Thanvi rahimahullah. And tonight, inshallah ta'ala, we are continuing on from our previous subject, which was the issue that a pregnant woman does not have haid. So let us continue. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So we are doing hadith number 338. حدثنا يحيى بن إسحاق قال أخبرنا ابن لهيعة وقتيبة بن سعيد قال حدثنا ابن لهيعة عن الحارث بن يزيد عن حنش الصنعاني عن رويفع بن ثابت رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يحل لأحد. وقال قتيبة لرجل، أي يعني لا يحل لرجل أن يسقي ماءه ولد غيره ولا يقع على أمة حتى تحيض أو يبين حملها. رواه الإمام أحمد في مسنده ورجاله رجال مسلم غير الصحابي. Okay, so the hadith is reported by Yahya ibn Ishaq from Ibn Lahiya, and it's also reported by Qutayba ibn Sa'id from Ibn Abdullah ibn Lahiya. So that's basically what this is. It's two different chains of narrations. Any case, or at least I should say, Imam Ahmad reports it through Yahya ibn Ishaq and through Imam Qutayb ibn Sa'id. Both of them take it from Imam Abdullah ibn Lahiya, and which then comes from Al-Harith ibn Yazid, from Hansha al-Sana'ani, from Hadrat Ruwayfi' ibn Thabit radiyallahu anhu, who said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said that it is not permissible for anyone. And in the narration of Imam Qutayba ibn Sa'id, he reported where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said it is not permissible for a man. It's synonyms in this case over here, because no woman can be having relationships with another woman. So obviously it refers to a man one way or the other. So it's not permissible for anyone or for a man يسقي معه ولد غيره, that his water should like you don't use your water to water somebody else's crop, so to speak. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam uses these euphemistic words to not be crude as some people. Some people they go in for crudeness. So it's like they think it's funny to be rude, crude, and use those kind of words and gutter language. But Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not such a person. So what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying is that it is not permissible for a man to have relationships, to sleep, if you understand what type of sleep I'm referring to, with a woman who is pregnant. That is the child of somebody else. In other words, there's a woman and now you've married her, and turns out, oh, there's there's a baby already on the way. You only 2 weeks married and she's a month and a half pregnant. These things happen. We live in that kind of world. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it's not permissible for you to water that field, so to speak. In other words, when you see that she's pregnant, you may not sleep with her because of the fact that this is not your child. So anyway, and then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said a man may not sleep with a slave girl until she has haid or it becomes clear that she's pregnant. In other words, a battle has just taken place or whatever. You've just gotten a slave girl. Now you've got your slave girl there now. Now it's like, she's my slave girl, I can go and sleep with her. No. Even then, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, you've gotten your slave girl, but first one haid period has to go by. Because if she has haid, then in other words, the haid is a sign of her not being pregnant. If there is no haid, she's not pregnant. So either a haid period will pass by, in which case she's not pregnant, or yubayyinu hamluha, or it will become clear that she's pregnant because now she's not having haid. So if you see she's pregnant, you cannot sleep with her. If the haid now comes and goes like normal, then okay, she's not pregnant, and you can now sleep with her because she is your slave girl. Obviously, if she's not married to somebody else, all the rules and masail that are associated with it, but nonetheless, that's what it is. In simple terms, how this hadith relates to the chapter, out of everything, it is the point that you can't, at least I should say, either the hatta tahida, until she bleeds, she has menstruation. her haid. If she has that haid, she cannot be pregnant. So in other words, it's two opposites. If one exists, the other can't. So if there's pregnancy, she cannot have haid. If there's haid, she cannot be pregnant. That's what it's establishing. So Imam Ahmad rahimahullah reports this hadith in his Musnad, and the narrators are all found in Sahih Muslim besides the Sahabi, meaning Hadr Ruwayfi ibn Thabit radiyallahu anhu. Okay, moving on. The next narration is hadith number 339 عن علي رضي الله عنه قال إن الله رفع الحيض عن الحبلى وجعل الدم مما تغيض الأرحام. Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, he said that verily Allah had lifted haid, meaning removed the haid from the hubla. Hubla means a woman who is pregnant. So Allah had removed haid from a woman who is pregnant and made the blood mimma تغيض الأرحام. Now مما تغيض الأرحام or تفيض الأرحام رزقا للولد. There's different wordings for this. The hadith, even though nothing is mentioned over here of a source, but this hadith is actually found in the by Imam Ibn Shaheen, Abu Hafs ibn Shaheen rahimahullah. He reports this hadith. He reports both versions from Hadrat Ali radiallahu anhu and from Hadrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu as well. So any case, so in the narration that Imam bin Shaheen mentions from Hadrat Ali radiallahu anhu, he said that Allah had removed haid from the pregnant woman and made the blood a means of sustenance for the child in the womb. So that's the wordings of that one. Similar thing is reported from Hadrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. But any case over here, so وَجَعَلَ الدَّمَ مِمَّا تَغِيضُ الْأَرْحَامِ, it's possible that it can be a typo and the رِزْقًا لِلْوَلَدِ is missing, but this one says تَغِيضُ الْأَرْحَامِ. In the narration of Imam Ibn Shaheen, it says تُفِيضُ الْأَرْحَامِ. So nonetheless, at the end of the day, it's a similar sort of a meaning, that the blood that is inside in other words, simply put, in Allah rafa'ala hayd anil hubla. That's where it starts and ends. That we're having two of the fuqaha of Sahaba, Hadrat Ali radiallahu anhu and Hadrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, establishing that if a woman is pregnant, the Allah has removed hayd from her. So thus, if she doesn't have hayd, if hayd has been removed from the equation, yet you find that she bleeds at times, then what is that blood? It is an abnormality. Thus, the abnormality is istihada. Any abnormal blood of a woman is istihada. Thus, that's how it fits in. So, when Allah has taken hayd out of the equation for a pregnant woman, then whatever blood she sees will be abnormal istihada and not hayd. Okay, moving on to the next narration now. We've got two more before we end the chapter, which is 340. وعن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما قال إن الله رفع الدم عن الحبلى وجعله رزقا للولد. رواهما ابن شاهين. وقد أجمعوا على أن طلاق الحامل ليس ببدعة في زمن الدم وغيره، فلو كانت تحيض لكان طلاقها فيه بدعة. الجوهر النقي. ولم أطلع على سند ابن شاهين، وإنما نقلتهما تأييدا، فإن الظاهر من جلالة صاحب الجوهر النقي أن الأثرين لا ينزلان من درجه الضعف. Okay. So the next narration is brought by Hadrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, who said that really Allah had lifted the blood from the dam here, referring to the hayd once again. Allah had lifted the hayd from the pregnant woman, and وَجَعَلَهُ, okay, you can take it in the meaning of blood here, and lifted the blood, the bleeding, changed the bleeding to put it in a more understandable translation. Allah had changed the bleeding of a woman who is pregnant and made it as a means of sustenance for the child. So it changed from being hayd, which is being expelled from the body, to being kept inside for the sake of nurturing the child. Both of these narrations are reported by Imam Ibn Shaheen, and he said the ulama are unanimous that the talaq of a pregnant woman is not, in other words, if you divorce your wife while she's pregnant, it is not a bid'ah. In the في زمن الدم وغيره فلو كانت تحيض لكان طلاقها فيه بدعة. What is this establishing over here? It is incorrect to divorce your wife in a state of haid. That's what we know as the principle. Hence, why if a man gave his wife talaq in a state of haid, he should actually take her back. And if he does really want to divorce her, he should wait until the haid ends and then give a talaq in a clean period. So, hence why he's establishing that if a man now divorces his wife during haid, I mean, during while she's pregnant, there, everybody's in unanimous that there's no issue with it. And when I say no issue, we're talking here from a point of fiqh perspective. We're not talking about a good for nothing man who now finds out his wife is pregnant and then decides he wants to run away because he can't handle the responsibility. We're not talking about creatures of that sort. We're talking about in a normal situation, or an abnormal situation, at least I should say, where people are fighting and fighting and fighting, and they ended up having a child, and then they found all the differences between them irreconcilable ones. So it's like they're heading two different aisles, or she changes, he changes, whatever the case may be. So there's no solution going forward besides divorce. So therefore, he divorces her while she's pregnant, or he comes out and he say, that's not my child. Who are you sleeping around with? Maybe she did sleep around, maybe she didn't. Whatever the case may be, I was away for the last 9 months. How are you here? Only 3 months pregnant. Some people actually believe you can make your wife pregnant from overseas, but I mean that's crazy talk of some people. But anyway, so nonetheless, what is being established here is that the ulama are unanimous. It's not a bid'ah if you divorce your wife in a state of pregnancy, but it is a bid'ah if you divorce your wife in a state of haid. Therefore, ergo, the bleeding that a woman who's pregnant has is thus established as not being haid. It's looking at the same thing from many different angles. We don't necessarily, as a layperson, you don't need to go through all of this. It's like, it's not allowed, it's not allowed. Finish the story, move on. But the ulama cover from all of these different angles to give a person a holistic picture, so that, if somebody want to argue, then they've got this one and they argue from that angle and that angle and so on and so forth. Okay, so now Mulana Zafar Ahmad Tanvi, he says that I did not come across the chain of narration of Imam Ibn Shaheen, but I mentioned it ta'yidan, meaning to strengthen the uh, discussion that we're having over here. But he says what is clear is that the Imam Az-Zaylai in Al-Jawhar al-Naqi, Imam Az-Zaylai is no small fry, he's one of the great Imams of Hadith. Hanafi, he was an Imam from Somalia, but one of the great ulama of Hadith. He was in the time of Imam Sakhawi, Imam Ibn al-Humam, at that point in time, that's when Imam Az-Zaylai was around. So anyway, nonetheless, Maulana Zafar Ahmad Tanvi says that the rank of a person like Imam Az-Zaylai, rahimahullah, he mentioning these two narrations, meaning that لا ينزلان من درجه الضعف. In other words, if Imam Az-Zaylai reported it, then he's not considering it to be weak. And if he didn't consider it to be weak, then hey, I'm happy to follow him. He had come across the chains of narration. I didn't. He felt it. He would have felt it's not weak, hence why he quoted it. Therefore, I also don't find an issue with it. That's basically what Mulana Zafar is mentioning in a nutshell. And Allah knows best. Last hadith of the chapter, hadith number 341. حدثنا خالد بن الحارث وعبد سليمان عن سعيد عن مطر عن عطاء عن عائشة رضي الله عنها في الحامل ترى الدم لا يمنعها ذلك من الصلاة. رواه الإمام أبو بكر بن أبي شيبة في مصنفه. قلت رجاله رجال الجماعة. So Khalid ibn al-Harith and Abda ibn Sulaiman narrates from Sa'id, from Matar, from Ata, from Hadra Aisha radiallahu anha, who said regarding a pregnant woman who sees blood, meaning a pregnant woman who now bleeds as if it is haid, لا يمنعها ذلك من الصلاة. That does not prevent her from salah. In other words, if it doesn't prevent her from salah, then it is not haid. Therefore, we say you only have three types of blood essentially: haid, nifas, istihada. So hayd come to an end, nifas comes to an end, and the abnormal one that can continue all the time is istihada. So anything which is abnormal thus becomes istihada. So a pregnant woman doesn't have hayd. Thus, if she sees any blood, automatically it's istihada. So it doesn't prevent. She doesn't now stop. Hey, I'm bleeding now, so I can't make salah. No, it's not haid, so you will continue with your salah. You will make تتوضأ لكل صلاة, as is the principle with regards to istihada, that she will make wudu for the time of every salah. So the bleeding breaks her wudu, not her ghusl. So every salah time, if she's bleeding, then she will just go and make another wudu, and so on and so forth. So Imam Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shayba, rahimahullah, he reports this in his Musannaf, meaning the Musannaf of Imam ibn Abi Shayba. And Mulana Zafar, he says that Rijaluhu Rijalul Jama'ah. The narrators or the men are the men of the group. Obviously, if you using a bad verbatim type translation, you end up with a weird thing like that. But in any case, rijaluhu rijalul jama'a, meaning the narrators in this hadith are the rijal, are the narrators which are found in al jama'a. What is al jama'a? Not the al jama'a party. We're talking here, al jama'a is a terminology that the muhaddithin use, meaning Imam Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, Nasa'i, and Ibn Majah. So the narrators found in the chain of narration here are found in those 6 books of hadith. So in essence, what it's telling you is that if these narrators are found in those books, therefore they are authentic. Hence why Imam Bukhari, Muslim, them reported from them. So therefore, if you have a chain of narration not found in their book, for example, so yeah, you're finding it by Imam Ibn Abi Shayba, and you're not finding it, for example, in the 6 books of hadith, it doesn't change anything, because the chain of narration is what matters. And the chain of narration here, the narrators in this chain are the same narrators found over there. Hence, this narration is, if I were to put it in simple terms, this narration here from Imam Ibn Abi Shayba is as authentic as a hadith from Bukhari. That's basically what it's coming down to. Because if Imam Bukhari reports from all these people, Imam Muslim reports from all these people, then both Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim, besides Imam Abu Dawud, Nasai, Ibn Majah, all deem these people to be reliable. Therefore, there's no issue with the authenticity of this hadith at all. That's basically how it boils down to. And anyway, that's the end then of the chapter. Let me see. We won't have time, obviously, to do the whole next chapter, but 3, 4, 5 narrations, but too much for tonight, especially since I am so slow always and never get to finish. We did what, 3, 4 for tonight, and our time is almost up. But okay, just to summarize once again. So, in simple terms, like I say, to simplify issues, taking away all the nitty-gritty details, what is simply put and simply established is that a woman who is in a state of a pregnancy, I mean, that's normally the sign that makes a woman say, hey, what's going on now? I must my period. Automatically, a alarm bell starts ringing for the woman that, hey, I may be pregnant. That's how it works generally. So thus, when a woman finds herself now in this state, so if she is indeed pregnant, then the blood that she sees will not be haid. It will be istihada. If, however, she thinks she's pregnant and it turns out she's not pregnant, then yes, the blood that she's seeing is indeed haid. But nonetheless, that's how it is in a simple nutshell. So during that entire period of the whole pregnancy, as many 9 months may be the norm. Some people can give birth in 6 months. Some people can give birth in a year. They have issues which delay or bring forth the child earlier. Nonetheless, whatever the case may be, if let's assume a woman has some issue which prevents her giving birth after 9 months, nowadays they take a woman into the hospital and do a C-section. But in any case, in the days of old, it would actually run on, and 10, 11, 12 months later, the woman is still pregnant. But anyhow, so we would say that entire period, even though 12 months may have gone by with her being pregnant, all 12 months she will perform her salah, and there will be no haid for her in that entire time period. So anyhow, that's how the issue in a nutshell. In simple terms, like I say, in fact, it's mansplaining to use those terms, because the reality is that just about every woman understands these masail already. So it's quite simple and straightforward. If you are pregnant and you are bleeding, it's not haid, it's istihada. You will make wudu and you make your salah. Finish. End of story. Straightforward. No need for long discussions. But nonetheless, despite the fact that there are not 110 ahadith being quoted over here, we've quoted some narrations, but we've quoted also from fuqaha of the Sahaba, Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha. So you have from a woman faqiha's perspective of Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, you've got from the male perspective of the fuqaha like Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu and Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma. So we've got sufficient proof to establish the fact that the bleeding changes in a case of a woman who's pregnant. We are not going to say you're still bleeding, it's still haid, you must. We say no. Simple, straightforward. This is how it is, and that's how it goes. So I think instead of pushing in for 2 more minutes to add in the new chapter, let us rather end on this point here for tonight, inshallah ta'ala. And next week, we can continue on from the new chapter. Oh, but I always tend to forget it. Back in the day, I used to say it every time, but anytime during the course of the class, any class that we're doing, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to ask your questions then and then. You don't have to wait for after class. You don't have to wait for any specific time. But if you do ask during the class, after the class, or if you only think about it later on, you can ask in the WhatsApp group. I mean, whatever works for you. All things are, the choice is yours, but nonetheless, you don't ever have to hold back and say, hey, can I ask? It's free for anybody to ask questions. You're not going to be charged and sent a bill to say you've asked a question, so pay 25 rand now, things of the sort. So anyhow, that being said, we end then on this point for tonight, inshallah ta'ala. Until next time, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.